Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the past 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, your training program, or supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me your questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. Or you can also DM them to me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Before we begin, I had a few questions with regards to the bone broth and collagen that I've been taking over the past year and a half from last week's No Filter Q&A when I was talking about that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm taking so you have an idea. For the bone broth, I'm going back and forth right now between chicken and beef bone broth. Okay, the brand I use is Organica. I'm not sponsored by this brand, so I'm not trying to plug them in. I do think they're a great brand, though. I've been using their products for over a year, and I've noticed that the bone broth, as I mentioned last week, it does help with my digestion. I sleep better when I'm on it. I usually take this right before I go to bed. Okay, so I'll mix it up. One day I'll have chicken, one day I'll have beef. Life in the fast lane, I like to mix up my my flavors every now and then. There's really no flavor to these, though. So it's just you throw them in with boiling hot water, down it, and go to sleep. 2 scoops, more than enough once a day. The reason I like to use the powdered bone broth, as I mentioned last week, it's a lot more time convenient for me. Like making your own bone broth takes a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time in my day. This is much more convenient. It's also more cost effective as well. I mean, if you ever bought bone broth in the store, you go to Whole Foods, 1 cup of it's like $9, right? So, I mean, that can add up if you're having a cup a day or 2 cups a day. So get the powder form, you're going to get all your nutrients in there. And as I mentioned last week, the brand from Organica, perfect. And I did put in a link to that in the description below from last week's video. And the other supplement that I'm currently taking, collagen, I'll take this first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. And I usually take 2 scoops of this. And that's how I take all my vitamins with the water. I just put a cup of water in there, drink it cold. You can even put this in your oatmeal. You can mix it with food, however you want. You can bake with it. I just throw it in the water and just down it. So it's easy, it's quick. And I do that first thing in the morning. So you can really have them whenever you like. It doesn't really matter what time of day you have them. I like to do the collagen first thing in the morning, though, and then bone broth at night. That's what works for me. But that doesn't mean you have to do that. You can have them whenever you want. I don't recommend putting them together, though. Okay, so you might want to keep them separated. You don't want to have an upset stomach and start mixing your powders together. So I would keep them separate. But however you space them out throughout the day, your call. All right, so let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Hi, Nick. How long before going to sleep do you recommend having your last meal? What I find works best for most people, 2 to 3 hours. And the reason I suggest that, it's just easier to digest your food, allow your body some time to actually break your food down. Because if you go to bed on a full stomach, what's happening? Your body is still trying to digest that food, sorry. So it's going to disrupt your sleep. And your quality of sleep is so important, right? You want to get in that good, deep REM sleep. And if you're waking up from your stomach's irritated or your body isn't shutting down properly, usually because you're going to bed on that full stomach. So I recommend to most people to try to cut that meal 2 to 3 hours before they go to sleep, primarily for the quality of sleep. Okay. I don't recommend that because you're going to burn fat better, or you're not going to gain fat, you're not going to gain weight. Like a lot of trainers will tell their clients stop eating carbs after 6 p.m. at night. I don't tell any of my clients that. I say space out your carbs evenly as long as they fit your daily macronutrient allowance and you don't go into a caloric surplus. You're not going to gain weight. So if you're someone who tends to eat in the later portion of the day, that's fine. But what I would recommend doing is just make sure, let's say you go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe cut that last meal at about 10 o'clock at night. Okay. That just gives your body time to digest. Not for everyone, but I found over the years working with the general population over the past 20 years, having that last meal 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep works best for most people, including myself. So give it a try, see what works for you. And if you're finding yourself still hungry before you go to bed, throw in the bone broth, right? That's what I do. And I find it works really well, actually. I find it suppresses my appetite quite well. So try that. That's another reason why I like putting the bone broth in at night. I find it really does suppress my appetite. So play around with it. But I noticed for most people that 2 to 3 hour mark works best. All right. Next question. Hi, Nick. What does eating clean really mean? Just no junk food, or does everything have to be organic? Okay, so everyone has different definitions of what eating clean truly is. I mean, if you look at the if it fits your macros diet, you can pretty much eat anything you want, right? So what I consider to be eating clean, no refined foods, no processed foods, no added sugar, essentially no white foods and white flour, white bread, white pasta. Those are foods that I try to eliminate from most people's nutritional plans when they're working with me, or I save them for a cheat meal. Um, I also like to go with the less ingredients, the better. Okay, so I find that works really well when you're trying to follow a so-called clean diet, right? Because I don't like variables. Like if someone's coming to me and they're having like IBS issues or they're constantly constipated or stuff, that's just like, okay, well, let's take out this food and let's put in this food. It's easy. It's as opposed to a whole wide variation of different foods, then we don't know what to take out. Let's start with a small variation of foods to begin with, and then slowly start adding things in or taking things out as we go. But for the most part, that's what I consider or I define as clean eating: foods that make me feel good. As I mentioned, very few ingredients, no added sugars. Watch how much saturated fat. You can have a little bit of saturated fat, but you don't want to have too much saturated fat. I personally stay away from things like trans fats, baked goods. That to me is not good food, quality food. So this comes down to, again, not just looking at the macronutrients, but looking at the micronutrients, the quality of the food that you're consuming. Eating clean doesn't need to be boring. Okay. I mean, it can be, but if you know how to cook and you know how to use spices and you know how to use certain sauces that are not like loaded with sugar, it doesn't have to be boring. Okay. So that's my definition of clean eating. I mean, I'm sure if you ask someone else, they'll give you a different definition, but no refined foods, no processed foods, no fried foods. Uh, Watch those white foods, white ingredients, flour, as I mentioned, white bread, things I'm not a big fan of using. But that's what I believe. I like to stick to basics, right? I talked about this before, the green veg. When it comes to my carbohydrates, quinoa, yams, sweet potatoes, brown rice, whole wheat pasta. When it comes to proteins, egg whites, whey isolate, chicken breast, salmon, turkey breast, like those type of foods, right? So I want to make sure I'm keeping my foods clean, like healthy fats, peanut butter, cashew butter, right? Natural almond butter. You've got omega-3 eggs. These are all good quality foods that you want to consume on a regular basis. So that's my definition of clean eating. Okay. Next question. Another food question. Okay. Nick, can I eat fast food and still put on muscle? I don't mean foods like McDonald's or Burger King, more like Chipotle's and Nando's chicken type places. I just hate cooking. Um, yeah, I mean, you probably could. You're going to add on some muscle. I mean, if you're eating at places like Chipotle and Nando's, I mean, I had to eat at Nando's a few weeks ago when I came back from Montreal. I was starving. I got off the plane and I didn't have any meals prepped when I got home. So I ordered Nando's. It was really the only thing that was open. I got home at I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. And in Vancouver, there's not much open at that time. So I ordered Nando's and it was clean, but I mean, they still had sauces on top of it. I could taste like there was definitely some added sugar into that sauce. And honestly, for the amount of chicken I got for the price I paid, I'm like, it's not that great. I mean, I think I paid like $25 for maybe 5 ounces of chicken. And I'm like, I could cook an 8 ounce chicken breast and it cost me like $3 or less. Right. And I highly doubt they're using organic chicken at places like Nando's. And I'm not saying that you have to eat organic chicken or anything like that, but I would question the quality of meat that they're using at these places. So places like Chipotle's and Nando's, I'm not on board thinking that they're the healthiest places. I prefer cooking my meals myself so I know what's going into them. If you're in a jam and you have to go somewhere, yeah, you're probably going to want to choose something like Nando's over McDonald's. But again, it wouldn't be something that I'd recommend consuming on a regular basis because, again, this comes down to the quality of the foods you're consuming. As I mentioned, when I was having that chicken did not taste nearly as good as the chicken that I have because I like to eat, I do eat organic chicken myself, but I just prefer the taste of organic chicken. But you don't have to eat organic chicken. But I just found the quality of that chicken I was consuming wasn't good quality at all. So I question foods from fast food places as good quality. How long are they in that freezer for? How long is the rice under heat lamps and stuff? Like, no, like it's not the same quality. So if you hate cooking, what I'd recommend doing is ordering your food from one of those meal prep companies. I mean, at least then it's a little bit more fresh. There's a lot of those meal prep service companies. I personally believe they're a bit of a ripoff myself. I mean, going to pay $15 for 6 ounces of chicken breast and rice that you could easily cook at home, I think that's a bit of a ripoff. But if you're lazy and you've got the funds to do it, see how I threw in if you're lazy, but if you have the funds to do it, by all means, that's what I would do. Because a lot of those meal prep service companies, they cater to people in the fitness community. So they're going to make sure that they're cooking things very, very healthy. And you can order foods, not that you have to, but you can order organic foods. You can have organic chicken from there, right? Or you can have like, they'll use like free range eggs, for example, in some of their omelets. So, or they'll use wild salmon, right? So, I mean, you're going to pay more. But to me, if you're someone who doesn't like to cook, I would work with one of those meal prep companies. There's a few out there. None come to mind because I don't use them, but I have a few clients that use them. But just be prepared to pay a lot because they average about $15 a meal. And if you're eating 6 meals a day, that can add up. So be careful. I mean, if you want to spend $15 for a bowl of oatmeal, by all means, go do it. But a lot of these foods you can make on your own, and prepping food doesn't take long, guys. I've made videos of this. I usually prep 42 meals in about an hour and a half, and I'm good for the week. So those are all my meals for the week. They're done. Hour and a half max. Okay, so it doesn't take a lot of time to do. But can you build muscle on fast food? Yeah, you probably can, but you're also going to probably put on some body fat along the way as well. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. All right. Next question. Hi, Nick. Can I have one cheat day a week and still see results? Yeah, you can. I just don't think you're going to get the results as quickly as you would as if you were to stay to one cheat meal or maybe 2 cheat meals a week as opposed to a whole entire cheat day. So most of my clients know I'm not a big advocate of incorporating cheat days into a nutritional plan. I find cheat days are a good way to sabotage your results because what happens is if you look at a cheat day as just as those 24 hours, think, well, it's only 24 hours, but it's how you feel after that cheat day that matters. So for example, if you have a cheat day that consists of in the morning, you wake up and you have pancakes and syrup, and then you go out for lunch, you have a burger and fries, and then you go out for dinner and you have, an entire pizza. The next day, most people are going to feel like crap. I know I would. I know I have. I've done that before after shows where I'll just pig out for a whole day and I feel like garbage. I feel like I'm hungover. I feel bloated. I feel constipated. I have a headache. I'm sweating profusely. I don't feel good. And then I think the last thing I want to do is actually go to the gym and train. And if I do go and train, I'm not giving it my utmost intensity. So that one cheat day has an impact on the following days. I've noticed too, when people have that cheat day, the next day they kind of shit the bed on their diet because they're so full from that cheat day, they don't consume all their meals on their nutritional plan. So now they're missing 3 to 4 meals. So now they're set behind on that second day. And then the third day, they're just trying to catch up to that first day again. So I don't recommend doing an entire cheat day for those reasons. Cheat meals, in my opinion, are much more effective. I feel that if your goal is to build lean quality muscle and lose fat, a cheat day is going to hinder your results. Yeah, you'll probably get some results, but I think those results will come much more quickly if you just stick to that cheat meal. And as most people who work with me on the nutritional plans know, I always recommend putting that cheat meal in at the end of the day as opposed to the beginning of the day. If you have, for example, those pancakes first thing in the morning as your cheat meal and you have it with syrup and butter, you're most likely going to crave more simple carbohydrates, more sugar throughout that day. So what I recommend doing is having that cheat meal at the end of the day. So then if your insulin levels spike and your blood sugar levels drop, well, what do you care? You're going to sleep anyway. So you're going to sleep it off. You're going to wake up the next day, jump right back on the diet. So I find that works really well when I'm working with people online with their diets. And I would say that 95% of the people I work with will follow that. They won't put their cheat meal in the morning because they may have tried it once and like, oh, shit, you're right. Yeah, I don't want to do that again. So they'll save their cheat meal for the end of the day. And that way they'll have like 4 or 5 of their own meals from the nutritional plan. So the time they get to that cheat meal, they're already so full. The cheat meal is not going to be that big. It's not like you can have 4 or 5 healthy meals and then go sit down and have an entire pizza. It's not going to happen. Even for me, I'm a huge eater. I wouldn't be able to do that. I might be able to get 2 or 3 slices of pizza and that's it. I'm stuffed. So that's another reason why I recommend having that cheat meal towards the end of the day. So I would not recommend having a cheat day, but I think cheat meals can be very beneficial. And depending on your goals, depending on where you're at with your plan and the results you're looking to achieve, I would keep those cheat meals to 1 to twice a week max. Okay. Next question. Hey, Nick, do you think it's a good idea to work out if you're under a lot of stress? I'm worried I might overtax my central nervous system if I train right now, as I have a lot of stresses in my life at the moment. Well, one of the things about working out and exercising regularly is that it releases endorphins. And endorphins actually allow us, they're those feel-good feelings that we have, right? And the endorphins, they provide us with a lot of energy. They make us feel better, and they actually help reduce cortisol levels, right? So when you're feeling stressed, you want endorphins. And the only way to get those endorphins is through working out, exercising. You're not going to get those same endorphins by going to the bar and having a few drinks. I mean, yeah, you might feel good at the time, but you're going to feel like shit later on. Whereas with working out, you have those endorphins and you keep them, you maintain them throughout the day. You feel good. You're more energized. I know whenever I do a workout, I feel more clear-headed. I work more productively. As opposed to a day where I take off the gym, I might move a little bit more sluggish. My brain is a little bit more foggy. My body feels a little bit more fatigued. And that's just not just me. I have clients who say the same thing. They say, I need my workout because I'm able to control and manage my stress levels much more efficiently. And I can handle my day. I have a lot of clients that have really high stressful jobs. I've got a few lawyers on my roster, and that job is super stressful, right? And they're always on their phones. They're always getting bombarded by emails and text messages from clients or from other lawyers. And, if they don't have their workout in place, they go nuts. They told me this. So I think if you're dealing with a lot of stress, I think working out is essential. I know it's hard at first too, because you might be thinking, oh my God, I've got so much to do today. The last thing I want to do is go to the gym. But I promise you, once you get to the gym and you get your workout going, after about 15, 20 minutes in there, you're going to be happy that you did it. So yeah, I would recommend, if you're under a lot of stress, get your ass in the gym. I mean, even if you only have 30 minutes is better than nothing, right? And that's why a lot of people who have high stressful jobs hire personal trainers, so they can just go to the gym. They can work in a private training facility. They don't have to think about, okay, what am I going to do? Is this machine available? What's available? No, it's just like, okay, my trainer is going to program my plan accordingly for what I need to do today. I'm going to get in, out, and I can get on with my day. So that's another thing too. If you're not working with a trainer, that can really help too, because then it's not one more thing you have to add to your day and think, okay, now I have to do this. It's like, okay, I can just zone out, go in. I have to work out. I have to do the work myself, but my trainer is going to take me through that workout. And I mentioned this last week about people who work with personal trainers, one of the benefits, and that's one of them. It's not just accountability. It's they can come in and they can zone out, mentally zone out, and allow the trainer to take them through the workout. They still have to do the work, but at least they don't have to think, okay, what am I training today? Oh, crap, that machine's not available. Now what am I going to do? All that's taken away when you have a trainer, an experienced trainer who will take you through that workout. So I would definitely recommend, if you're someone who's dealing with a lot of stress, get that exercise in, get that workout in. And like I said, even if it's only 30 minutes, I got people that train with me for 45 minutes, 3-4 times a week. That's more than enough. Okay. You don't have to train every day, but it would be something I'd recommend getting in at least 3 to 4 times a week, just to help manage your stress levels. Okay. Next question. Hi, Nick. If I follow a protein and veg diet for 4 weeks, how much weight do you think I will lose? I'm currently 270 pounds. I'm thinking of just cutting out all carbs and fats for 30 days. If you cut out all carbs and all fats for 30 days, you are going to become an idiot, and you're also going to become a very bitchy person. Okay. We need fats for our brain to function properly. You can get away with not having carbohydrates. That's true. I wouldn't recommend it though. As most people know, I'm not a big advocate of doing the ketosis diet. But yeah, you don't need to have carbohydrates in your diet. It's not an essential macronutrient, but fats are definitely an essential macronutrient. So I would not advise you to take fats out of your diet. Now, if you go on a protein veg diet, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose a lot of weight. You're going to lose weight very quickly too. The problem with the protein veg diets, and take it from someone who's done protein veg before, earlier in my bodybuilding career, those diets only work short term. And what happens is when you reintroduce the macronutrients, the fats, and the carbs, your body soaks up those macronutrients so quickly, you retain water like a water buffalo, and then your metabolism slows down, doesn't know how to process that, and then you start putting on the fat again, and you start putting on weight, and it feels very uncomfortable. The only time I will put someone on a protein veg diet is if we're behind schedule and I'm getting them ready for either a major event or a fitness competition. I just helped someone get ready for her wedding and she was a little behind schedule. So I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out your carbs every second day. I didn't cut out fats. I never cut out fats, but we cut out the carbs. So I would do one day protein fat, one day I would do protein carbs and fat. And so I was rotating the macronutrients from day to day. So she'd go 24 hours without carbohydrates. I put them back in again. And that way we were never really in a true state of ketosis, but we were manipulating the macronutrient rotation with the carbohydrates and the fats. And that helped keep the metabolism going quickly. She was never like starving. Insulin levels, blood sugar levels, everything was stable. Everything felt great. And then we were able to drop another 4 or 5 pounds before the wedding. So it was smooth sailing. So the only time I'll throw in protein veg is if it's really like, oh crap, we need to make a weight. Like if it's a fitness competition, or I'm working with someone right now, working with 2 people right now for an upcoming fight. And sometimes we have to make that weight. Then I might say, okay, we're going to cut the carbs out for, 48 hours. But rarely, if ever, and you can talk to anyone I've ever worked with on a nutritional plan, will I ever cut out fats. I'm not really a big advocate of just protein veg diets. I really don't think it's a good idea. To answer your question, you will lose weight, you lose a lot of weight, and you lose weight fast. You can at 270 pounds, you can probably lose 7-8 pounds a week doing a diet like that, right? But again, it's short term. As soon as you come off that diet, you're going to put all the weight back on. So it's better to smooth sail down on your nutritional plan. You don't go to a gunfight and start shooting out all your bullets in the air right away. You don't do that, right? You want to save some ammunition. So why take out everything right away? Why not slowly start reducing your overall caloric intake and then rotating your macronutrients when it becomes necessary, right? If you can get away with losing 2 pounds a week and you're eating tons of food, that to me is an ideal diet. That to me is perfect. It's when you start hitting plateaus, and only when you start hitting plateaus, that's when you have to start looking, okay, so what do I do here? Do I start reducing my caloric intake? Do I start rotating my macronutrients? Do I start doing more cardiovascular activity? What do I do? And that's where it comes down to working with an experienced coach can really help you, because then you don't have to think, what do I do myself? Your coach will tell you what they think you should do, and you can go with that plan. So to answer that question, I would not recommend a protein veg diet to anyone. If you are behind schedule on a plan, you need a crash course to get ready or hit a weight target in 2 or 3 days, it will work. But I promise you, it's not going to do you any well if you stay on it for longer than 2 or 3 days max. Okay, so really, I advise anyone who's out there doing any nutritional plan right now, protein veg diet, emergencies only. And really those emergencies are if you're getting ready for a certain fight, or if you're trying to make a weight class and you need to drop 3 to 4 pounds very quickly. That would be the only time I can see someone needing to go on a protein veg diet. Okay. Next question. Nick, what are your thoughts on no pain, no gain? Do you ever say this to your clients? I never say that to any of my clients. If you're in pain, don't train. Okay, so it depends where the pain is. Let's say, for example, I've strained my quadricep. Well, probably not a good idea to go into squat rack and start squatting 315. It might be a good idea to maybe actually not train out legs at all that week, right? If you go with that no pain, no gain bullshit, and you're like, well, whatever, I'll just pop a few ibuprofen and just get into that squat rack, you risk that strain going into an actual tear. And now you're not going to be able to train legs for maybe easily 3 months, right? So you have to really be smart when you're in the gym. And I find that the older I've become, the smarter I've become in the gym. I talked about this a few weeks ago. I just had a vasectomy procedure, right? And my surgeon had advised me to take a full week off from the gym, which I did. And then when I came back, I couldn't wait to get back in and start training again. On day one, I just felt, I mentioned this on last week's Q&A, it didn't feel right. Like I could actually feel, not to get too personal, but things down there just didn't feel right. I just felt it was too much strain. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give my body a few more days. I'm not going to strain right away. So even though my surgeon said I'd probably be good to go back to the gym in the 7 days, my body wasn't ready yet. And so I gave my body another 7 days and then 2 weeks. And then I came back from my first workout. I felt great. I was a little weaker, but I didn't lose muscle. That was more of a glycogen factor. Once you start training again, your body starts to hold up that glycogen and build the glycogen storage back up so you can lift the poundages you were lifting before. So I knew to expect that. But I just did my first leg workout yesterday. And yeah, I was a little weaker, but I still was able to get through it with no problems, no extra strain. So it was listening to my body. So the whole no pain, no gain bullshit, that belongs back in the 80s, right? It's not something that's going to benefit you. You have to think long term. This is not a sprint, it's a race. It's a long distance race. So if you can't train a muscle group because it feels strained or you've pulled it, let's say you pulled your hamstring, or I've worked with some people who've, they have a shoulder issue. And, I worked with one of my clients and they had a slight micro tear in their shoulder. So the MRI showed. So what I did with him was I said, okay, well, we're just not going to do any direct lateral raises or shoulder presses for a few weeks, but we can still do other things to make sure we're working the shoulder indirectly, right? We can still train your biceps. We can still train your triceps. We can still do a lot of chest work. We just have to be careful with certain planes of motion. So you have to listen to your body and let it recover the way it needs to recover so that you can continue to train for the long term, right? It's a big difference of not being able to train for 2 weeks in my case versus not being able to train for, let's say, 2-3 months. If I came back to the gym too quickly after that vasectomy procedure and started saying, no, I'm just going to go into the squat rack and start squatting, and something happened down there, if I strained some stitches or something, and now, oh crap, now I can't train for 2-3 months, that's going to really hinder my results and my gains. So I'd rather take the 2 weeks off than have to sit on the bench for 2-3 months and not be able to train. So you have to think like that. So no pain, no gain, complete bullshit. Okay, next question. Nick, I read in one of your recent blogs that you mentioned weight training burns more calories than cardiovascular activity. But according to my Fitbit, I hate Fitbits. I really fucking hate Fitbits. God damn it, I hate Fitbits. But according to my Fitbit, whenever I run for 45 minutes on the treadmill, I burn almost twice as many calories than I do when I'm lifting weights. How can this be? Okay, putting my feelings for Fitbits aside, what I meant, or what I mean by that, because I talk about this quite a bit, is that, all right, in the 45 minutes that you're in the gym doing resistance training versus 45 minutes in the gym doing or running on the seawall, whatever you're doing, or cardiovascular activity, in those 45 minutes, yes, you're going to burn more calories doing the cardiovascular activity. Guess what? When you're done that run, or when you're done biking, or when you're done spinning, or when you're done rowing, whatever cardio you're doing, elliptical machine, that's it. Game over. You're done burning those calories for the day. When you leave the gym after a weight training workout, your metabolism's going, you just shock your body. Your muscles don't know what the hell is going on. They're looking for food. Your metabolism is going crazy. So throughout the rest of the day, your body is burning more calories in a rested state. So essentially what I'm saying is, if I'm sitting in this chair for an hour, and let's say I just did a run for 45 minutes this morning, I'm seated, I might burn, let's say, 30-40 calories in that hour. If I did a weight workout instead, my body is like, still in that state of shock, and my metabolism is going, right? And what's happening is I can take that 30 to 40 calories and double it. I'm burning even more calories. Another thing is, the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn in a rested state. So for myself, I mentioned this last week, I consume about 5,000 calories a day. I'm not overweight, but because I have lean, solid muscle, my body's able to take those calories in and just put them all into the muscle cells necessary. And just everything else, it's like a carburetor, just throws it all out, right? I absorb the nutrients, but everything else just goes right through me. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of doing weight training over cardiovascular activity. Now, cardio is definitely important. It's important for your heart. And I do advise clients to do cardio 2-3 times a week. But it doesn't have to be, 45 to 60 minutes a day, 7 days a week. So that's what I meant by you burn more calories doing weight training than you do cardiovascular activity. But I don't mean in those 45 or 60 minutes. No, yes, you're going to burn more calories doing cardio, right? You don't even need a Fitbit to tell you that. Did I mention how much I hate Fitbits? Fucking hate them. So to answer that question, yes, you're going to burn more calories overall in the 24-hour period in a day if you take a weight training session over cardio. But I'm not saying to neglect your cardio. You should still do, in my opinion, about 20-30 minutes cardio 3-4 times a week. Doesn't have to be in the gym. You can go for a walk outside, go for a brisk walk, whatever it is, just to help with your heart, because you do want to make sure your cardiovascular endurance is healthy. So that's why I recommend people do your cardio, good heart health. All right. Next question. Nick, should I stretch before or after my workouts? I see so many people doing one or the other, so I'm confused as to what works best. Okay, so when it comes to working out, there's two types of stretching. We have your dynamic stretching and we have your static stretching. Dynamic stretching is anything that involves movement, right? So, rotating your shoulders, right? You can do retractions, you can do pronations, moving your arms, just warming up your elbows, getting the blood flowing, movements, running in one spot, jogging in one spot, anything that provides movement just to get the blood flowing through the muscles and the joints. That's called dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching is best to do before the workout. So a lot of times when I have clients come into the gym and they're early for a session, I'll advise them, like, guys, do your dynamic stretching. Don't just stand there and wait for me or sit there and play on your phone. Do your dynamic stretching. And they do. Because that really helps warm up the muscle bellies. Then they don't have to waste time with me warming up, right? Static stretching is stretching with no movement. So you see a lot of that, for example, of yoga poses, right? Where you're doing static contractions for a good 45 to 60 seconds. So that could be anything from a runner stretch where you're grabbing your ankle and you're bringing your heel up to your glute. Could be a tricep stretch where you're stretching your arm, stretching your tricep by holding your wrist down. Could be a shoulder stretch by doing the handcuff movement with your hands clasped behind your back. So when you're doing static stretching, I advise people to do that at the end of the workout, because when you do a static stretch, you're taking a muscle into a state of relaxation. So you don't want to relax a muscle and then stimulate it really hard with doing a set in the gym. And I see this quite a bit too when I've gone to commercial gyms. I'll see someone, for example, let's say they're doing a bench press, and then I'll see them do a static stretch, and then they'll go back in between sets and do another bench press, and then while they're resting, to do another stretch. To me, that's dangerous because you risk injury. You're taking that muscle into a state of relaxation and then you're hitting it really hard again. So you're better off you can still stretch in between sets, but do the dynamic stretching. So for example, if you're doing that bench press, in between sets, do those shoulder retractions, do those shoulder pronations, move your arms around. Don't do a wall stretch where you're stretching out your pecs. If you did a chest workout, save that wall stretch for the end of the workout. Okay, so dynamic stretching, which is movement, before the workout, static stretching, which is no movement, towards the end of the workout. Okay. All right. Last question. Okay. This is actually, all right. So this question, I've been getting a lot of questions on this lately. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to address it once and I'm not going to address it again. Okay. So question is, Nick, I'm sure you've seen all the reports on Trevor Killian lately, but was wondering if you still keep in contact with him and have any updates on the situation. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Trevor Killian was a client of mine for, I think Trevor trained with me for about 5 to 6 years. And he's recently moved to Florida. And last week, an incident happened and he's now facing charges of attempted murder on 2 of his kids. This is something that you can find online. It's all over media outlets. Global News has put it out there. CTV has put it out there. American news channels have put it up there. So, and I've had a lot of clients sending me links to what's going on in Florida right now with Trevor's case, and they're asking me questions. And so rather than address every single comment and question I've been getting in my inbox or through text messages, I thought, okay, I'm going to answer it here and then we're going to leave it. So first off, I'm not going to address the case. You can look into that yourself. That's not my place. It's not my business to say anything about the case. From what I hear, the kids are in stable condition now, which is great. That's fantastic. Our main concern should be for his wife and for his kids right now, right? That's the main concern. From what I hear, as I mentioned, they're stable. So again, that's great, right? We want to, that's number one priority. Now, as far as Trevor's concerned, I haven't spoken to Trevor since 2020 during the pandemic. We had a difference in opinion with how COVID-19 was being handled. I was a huge supporter, as most of you know, if you followed my social media posts, I was a huge supporter of supporting our healthcare workers, wearing masks where necessary. I was also someone who actually was a firm believer in the vaccination shots. Trevor disagreed with me on a lot of these topics, which is fine. I know other people who had difference in opinions, different beliefs, and we still got along. So we just decided it was a kind of a mutual decision just not to work together anymore. Besides that, we didn't end on like really bad terms or anything like that. But I haven't spoken to him since I think it was about fall 2020, so about 2 years ago. And I did hear recently he moved to Florida, and I heard about what happened earlier this week. And I've been very careful with my words. It's not my place to say, it's not my business. I only send well wishes to his wife, Lauren, and their kids. I hope his kids are doing okay. Obviously, this is a very traumatizing event for everyone involved. But what I think right now is important is that people don't start spreading rumors and talking negatively about the people involved. I mean, we don't know all the facts. We know what we hear from the media, but everything I hear from the media, I take with a grain of salt, especially if it comes from Fox News. I'm not going to defend Trevor. I'm not going to start saying anything negatively about Trevor. I'm just going to say I'm going to put this to rest here, is that I'm glad to hear that his kids are in a stable condition, and I wish only the absolute best for his wife, Lauren, and his family moving forward. Okay, so if you do message me on this case or you send me links, I'm not going to respond. I've addressed it here, and then that's it. We're going to put it to rest now, okay? So anyway, guys, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode should be going up on Friday afternoon. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me, nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting my business, and I will see you all next week. Have a great weekend, guys.